My father's voice cut through the dinner table conversation like a blade through silk. "You want to do what?" he demanded, his fork clattering against his plate. The mashed potatoes my mother had carefully prepared suddenly tasted like ash in my mouth. I swallowed hard and repeated myself. "I want to start a digital marketing agency. I've been studying online advertising and social media strategies for 2 years. I have clients ready to sign contracts." My father's face turned a deep shade of red I'd learned to fear during my childhood. "Absolutely not. You'll work for Holloway Industries like I planned. I've already spoken to the hiring manager about getting you a position in their accounting department." I felt my mother's warning glance from across the table, but I'd made my decision weeks ago. This conversation was inevitable. "I don't want to be an accountant, Dad. I want to build something of my own." He stood up so fast his chair scraped across the hardwood floor. "Then you'll do it without my name, my money, or my roof over your head. If you walk away from this opportunity, you're walking away from this family." The silence that followed my father's ultimatum was suffocating. My younger sister Bethany stared at her plate, refusing to meet my eyes. My mother's hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. I'd known this moment would come, had prepared myself for it during countless sleepless nights. But the reality of being disowned still hit me like a physical blow. "I understand," I said quietly, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'll pack my things tonight." My father's expression was carved from stone. "You have until morning, and don't expect any help from us. You want to throw away your future? You'll do it alone." I stood up from the table, my legs shaking slightly. As I walked toward my childhood bedroom, I heard my mother's soft crying and my father's harsh whisper telling her to stop being weak. I had $2,700 in my savings account, a laptop I bought with birthday money, and a business plan I'd been developing in secret. It wasn't much, but it was mine. That night, I packed everything I owned into 2 suitcases and 3 cardboard boxes, feeling both terrified and strangely liberated. The next morning arrived cold and gray, matching my mood perfectly. I loaded my belongings into my beat-up Toyota Camry, while my father watched from the living room window, his arms crossed and his face expressionless. My mother came out as I was closing the trunk, her eyes red from crying. "Please reconsider," she whispered, glancing nervously at the house. "Your father is just trying to protect you. He's seen so many people fail at business ventures." I kissed her cheek gently. "I know, Mom, but I have to try." She pressed $500 bills into my hand, looking over her shoulder to make sure my father wasn't watching. "Take this. Please be safe." I drove away with tears blurring my vision, watching my childhood home disappear in the rearview mirror. The small apartment I'd rented was in the cheapest part of town, a studio with peeling paint and a bathroom the size of a closet. But it was mine. I spent that first day setting up my workspace at the tiny kitchen table, registering my business officially. Quantum Digital Solutions. The name felt powerful, professional, like the future I was determined to build. The first 3 months were brutal in ways I hadn't imagined. I worked 16-hour days, reaching out to small businesses through cold emails and social media messages. For every 100 contacts, maybe 2 would respond. For every 10 responses, perhaps 1 would agree to a meeting. The rejection was constant and demoralizing. My savings dwindled rapidly. Rent took a huge chunk, utilities another, food whatever remained. I survived on rice, beans, and whatever produce was on sale at the discount grocery store. My apartment's heating barely worked, so I wore layers of clothing while working through the night. But then, on a Tuesday morning in month 4, everything shifted slightly. A local restaurant owner named Franco contacted me after seeing my posts about increasing customer engagement through Instagram marketing. He'd been struggling to fill tables during weekdays and was willing to try anything. We met at his restaurant, a family-owned Italian place that had been serving the community for 30 years. Franco was in his 50s, skeptical but desperate. "Show me what you can do," he said, stirring his espresso. "I'll give you 1 month. If you increase my weekday reservations by 20%, I'll pay you $2,000. I threw everything into Franco's project. I redesigned his social media presence, created engaging content showcasing his chef's talents, ran targeted ads highlighting weekday specials, and built a simple loyalty program. I worked 18-hour days, perfecting every detail. 3 weeks later, Franco called me, his voice excited. Reservations are up 43% on weekdays. My dining room is full on Tuesday and Wednesday nights for the first time in years. Whatever you're doing, it's working. He paid me the $2,000 and immediately hired me for ongoing work at $1,500 monthly. More importantly, he referred me to 3 other struggling business owners in his network. My business was starting to breathe. Then my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. The voice on the other end was familiar, but unexpected. Is this Quantum Digital Solutions? This is Pierce Harrington. We competed for the marketing award at State University 3 years ago. I remembered Pierce. He'd won that award with a brilliant campaign, while I'd placed second. We'd had an intense but respectful rivalry. I remember, "What can I do for you, Pierce?" Pierce's offer was unexpected and generous. He'd started his own agency 2 years before me and had achieved significant success. But instead of viewing me as competition, he wanted to help. "I've been following your work with Franco's restaurant," he said during our coffee meeting the next day. "Your Instagram strategy was clever, targeting specific demographics during off-peak hours. You got real talent." I was suspicious at first. Why would a successful competitor want to help me? Pierce seemed to read my mind. "Look, I know this seems strange, but I believe there's enough business for both of us. Plus, honestly, your father and mine have been business associates for years. I heard through the grapevine what happened. That took guts." Over the next hour, Pierce shared strategies that had taken him months to learn through expensive mistakes. He introduced me to tools for client management, showed me how to price my services properly, and gave me contact information for potential clients his agency was too large to service efficiently. Start with businesses doing under $1 million in annual revenue, he advised. They need help but can't afford big agencies. That's your sweet spot. With Pierce's guidance, my business transformed. I landed 6 new clients within 2 months, each one a small business desperate for effective digital marketing. My monthly revenue jumped from $1,500 to $8,000. I was barely profitable after expenses, but I was surviving. Then disaster struck. A competitor called Digital Wave launched with massive funding and started offering services similar to mine at impossibly low prices. They were undercutting everyone, clearly operating at a loss to gain market share quickly. I watched 3 of my potential clients sign with them instead of me. Panic set in as I calculated my numbers. If this continued, I'd be out of business within 6 months. Pierce called when he heard about Digital Wave's aggressive tactics. "They're burning through investor money," he said. "They can't sustain those prices. But you need to differentiate yourself immediately. Give clients something they can't get from a discount agency." I spent 3 sleepless nights developing a new service package. Instead of just managing social media, I'd offer complete digital transformations, including website redesigns, email marketing, and personalized customer engagement strategies. The price was higher, but the value was undeniable. My new comprehensive approach attracted attention from exactly the right kind of clients. Business owners who understood that effective marketing required investment, not just cheap services. Within 4 months, I'd signed contracts with 12 clients, and my monthly revenue hit $23,000. I hired my first employee, a talented designer named Valerie, who could create stunning visual content. Then I hired a developer named Omar, who could build beautiful, functional websites. Suddenly, I wasn't just surviving, I was growing. The expansion attracted notice from industry publications. A local business magazine featured me in their Entrepreneurs to Watch section. The article mentioned how I'd built my agency from nothing, though it didn't mention the family drama that had pushed me to succeed. My phone rang one evening as I was reviewing client proposals. My father's name appeared on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "I heard about your little business," he said without preamble. His voice carried that same dismissive tone I remember from our last dinner together. "I have a proposition. Bring your operation under Holloway Industries' marketing division. I'll make you a manager, give you resources, stop this foolish independence. My father's offer felt like a trap disguised as an opportunity. Let me understand this correctly. I said slowly, you want to give up the business I've built and work for you as a manager? I'm offering you stability, he replied, irritation creeping into his voice. Your mother is worried sick about you. This would ease her mind and give you a real career path. The implications were clear. He still viewed my success as temporary, something to be rescued from rather than celebrated. I appreciate the offer, Dad, but I'm building something here. I have employees depending on me and clients who trust my vision. I'm not giving that up. The silence on the other end lasted several seconds. You're making a mistake. Pride comes before a fall, and you're headed for a hard landing. I hung up feeling both vindicated and hollow. His rejection still stung, even though I knew I'd made the right decision. The next day, I received an offer that would test my resolve further. A major retail chain called Silverbrook wanted to hire Quantum Digital Solutions for a regional campaign. The contract was worth $180,000, but it came with demanding terms and tight deadlines. I gathered my small team to discuss the Silverbrook opportunity. Valerie was excited about the creative possibilities. Omar was concerned about the technical requirements. I was worried about everything. This contract could make us, I said, spreading the terms across our conference table. But if we fail to deliver, it could also break us. We'd need to work nights and weekends for 3 months straight. Valerie nodded firmly. I'm in. This is the kind of project that builds reputations. Omar agreed after reviewing the technical specifications. It's ambitious, but doable. We'll need to hire a second developer temporarily. I signed the contract that afternoon, my hand shaking slightly. This was the biggest gamble I'd taken since leaving my father's house. We threw ourselves into the project with manic intensity. I hired a freelance developer to help Omar, brought on a social media specialist, and worked alongside everyone, managing clients while contributing to the creative process. My father called again during week 6 of the project. I heard you took on the Silverbrook campaign, he said. That account is beyond your capabilities. When you fail, it'll damage your reputation permanently. I'm concerned about your future. I'd learned not to engage with his negativity. Thanks for calling, Dad. I need to get back to work. We delivered the Silverbrook campaign 2 days ahead of schedule. The results exceeded their expectations, driving a 37% increase in regional foot traffic and a 52% boost in online sales. Silverbrook's regional director called personally to thank me, and they immediately signed a year-long contract for ongoing services. Industry recognition followed quickly. Marketing publications featured our work. I was invited to speak at a digital marketing conference. Other major clients started reaching out, attracted by our growing reputation. My team expanded to 8 people, and we moved into a proper office space with windows that opened and a break room with actual furniture. Pierce sent me a congratulatory text. Told you that you had talent. Keep pushing. But the most satisfying moment came when I checked my competitor's status. Digital Wave, the company that tried to undercut everyone with impossibly low prices, had quietly shut down after burning through their investor funding. Meanwhile, my father's company, Holloway Industries, was showing signs of struggle. Industry gossip suggested they were losing clients to more innovative competitors. Their outdated approach to business was becoming a liability in an increasingly digital marketplace. The major deal arrived through an unexpected channel. A global technology company called Nextech was expanding into new markets and needed a digital marketing partner who understood both local audiences and scalable strategies. Their North American director had seen my conference presentation and was impressed by our Silverbrook results. The contract they offered was staggering. $3 million over 2 years to manage their regional digital presence. It was more money than I'd imagined making in 5 years, compressed into 24 months. But there was a significant catch. Nextech wanted exclusive rights to my agency services. We couldn't take on other major clients during the contract period, putting all our eggs in one basket. Pierce advised caution when I called him for guidance. That's life-changing money. But if Nextech fails or changes direction, you're left with nothing and no other major clients. It's extremely risky. I spent a week analyzing the offer, running financial projections, and consulting with my team. Finally, I made my decision during a team meeting. We're not taking the next tech deal. I announced. It's tempting, but I didn't build this agency to become dependent on one client. We'll keep growing steadily, maintaining diverse revenue streams. Declining the next tech offer felt both liberating and terrifying. I'd turned down guaranteed millions to maintain my independence and vision, but the decision proved wise almost immediately. 3 other mid-sized companies approached us within weeks, each offering contracts between $300,000 and $500,000. By accepting all 3, we generated more revenue than the next tech deal would have provided, without the exclusivity restrictions. My agency's reputation continued growing. We expanded to 15 employees and opened a second office across town. Annual revenue hit $4.2 million. I was 28 years old and running a thriving business that employed talented people and helped companies succeed. Then I started hearing concerning rumors about Holloway Industries through business networks. My father's company was facing serious challenges. Their refusal to embrace digital transformation had left them vulnerable to more agile competitors. Clients were leaving for agencies that understood modern marketing. Through a mutual contact, I learned that Holloway Industries was involved in a lawsuit with a former client who claimed their outdated strategies had damaged their brand. The case wasn't going well for my father's company. The rivalry between my success and my father's struggles became increasingly apparent in business circles. People who knew both of us would make careful comments, trying to gauge my reaction to his company's difficulties. I tried not to feel satisfaction at his struggles, but old wounds made neutrality difficult. Pierce called me one evening with interesting news. Holloway Industries is quietly looking to sell their headquarters building. They're downsizing operations to cut costs. The financial pressure is real. My father's company had occupied that building for 23 years. It was a landmark in the business district, a symbol of everything he'd built. The thought of him losing it stirred complicated emotions. Part of me felt vindicated. He'd told me I'd be nothing without his support, that my independence would lead to failure. Now his company was crumbling while mine thrived. But another part of me, the part that still remembered being his son, felt unexpectedly sad. 6 months later, the situation worsened. Holloway Industries lost their largest client, a manufacturing company that had been with them for 15 years. The client cited inability to adapt to modern marketing requirements as their reason for leaving. Industry publications reported that Holloway Industries was now operating at a significant loss, bleeding money with each passing quarter. The financial strain on my father's company became increasingly visible. They laid off a third of their workforce. They canceled their annual industry sponsorships. Their office lights stayed dark on weekends, a stark contrast of constant activity that had once defined the place. I heard through former employees that my father was personally stressed to the point of health concerns. My mother called me for the first time since I'd left home, her voice small and frightened. "Your father won't admit it, but things are very difficult right now. The business is struggling, and he's barely sleeping. I'm worried about him." The conversation was brief and awkward. We didn't discuss my success or their rejection of me. She simply wanted me to know that my father was hurting, perhaps hoping I'd feel moved to help. I didn't. Not yet. 2 months later, Holloway Industries began selling off assets to stay operational. Company vehicles, office equipment, even some of the artwork from their headquarters. Each sale felt like watching a proud ship slowly sink. Then came the announcement that shocked the local business community. Holloway Industries was selling their headquarters building. The landmark property where my father had built his empire was being put on the market for $2.4 million. The opportunity to buy my father's headquarters building felt like destiny, presenting me with a choice. I had the capital. My agency's success had generated serious wealth, and banks were eager to provide additional financing given our strong financial performance. Pierce was the first person I called to discuss the possibility. "It's a bold move," he said carefully. "Buying your father's building would be a powerful statement, but you need to be sure you're doing it for the right reasons." I spent 3 days wrestling with my motivations. Was this revenge? Was I trying to prove something to a man who'd rejected me? Or was it simply a good business decision? The building was well located, properly maintained, and offered expansion room my growing agency needed. Finally, I made my decision. I'd make an offer, but not to humiliate my father. I'd do it because it made strategic sense for my business, and because maybe, just maybe, it could be the first step towards some form of reconciliation. I submitted an offer of $2.2 million, slightly below asking price, but reasonable given current market conditions. The real estate agent called back within hours. Your offer has been accepted. The seller seemed relieved to have a serious buyer so quickly. The closing was scheduled for 30 days later. The acquisition process was surreal. Legal documents passed back and forth. Inspections were conducted, and financing was finalized. Through it all, I knew my father must have realized who was buying his building, but he never reached out. The day of the closing arrived gray and rainy. I signed what felt like 1,000 documents, transferring $2.2 million for the building that had symbolized my father's success for over 2 decades. As I walked through the empty headquarters that evening, my footsteps echoed through rooms where I'd once visited as a child, impressed by my father's accomplishments. Now those rooms would house my agency's expanded operations. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. My phone rang as I stood in what had been my father's corner office. His name appeared on the screen. "You bought my building," he said without preamble. His voice was flat, emotionless. "I did. It's a good location for my agency's expansion. We've outgrown our current space. You did this to humiliate me." His voice cracked slightly. "To show everyone that you've succeeded where I'm failing." "No, Dad. I did this because it's a smart business decision. Everything else is just history." The silence on the phone stretched uncomfortably long. Finally, my father spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. "I was wrong about you." The admission hung in the air between us like smoke. I didn't respond, couldn't respond. This was the moment I'd imagined during countless difficult nights, the vindication I craved. But it felt hollow, less satisfying than I'd expected. "Your agency is worth more than my company ever was," he continued. "You've built something in 5 years that took me 20 years to build, and you did it better, with more integrity, with more vision." I found my voice. "I learned some of that from you, Dad. The parts about hard work and dedication. I just applied them differently." "I need your advice," he said, the words clearly painful for him to speak. "Holloway Industries is dying. I don't know how to save it. I'm not asking for money or a handout, just guidance. Please." The proud man who disowned me for choosing my own path was asking his son for help. The irony would have been amusing if it weren't so tragic. "Send me your financial statements and client list. I'll review them and call you next week." When my father's financial documents arrived, the situation was worse than I'd imagined. Holloway Industries was 3 months from bankruptcy, hemorrhaging cash with no clear path to recovery. Their client roster had shrunk to a fraction of its former size, and their services were outdated by at least 5 years. I spent 2 days analyzing everything, consulting with my team about potential solutions. Then I called my father and asked him to meet me at a coffee shop, neutral territory where we could talk honestly. He arrived looking older than I remembered, gray hair that had been dark 5 years ago, lines around his eyes that spoke of stress and sleepless nights. We sat across from each other, 2 business owners at vastly different points in their journeys. "Your company can't be saved in its current form," I told him bluntly. "You're competing in markets where you're obsolete, but there's value in your client relationships and your experience with traditional marketing channels." He listened silently as I outlined a possible path forward. Holloway Industries could pivot to focus exclusively on legacy clients who still value traditional approaches, becoming a boutique firm rather than try and compete with modern agencies. It would be smaller, but potentially sustainable. My father absorbed my analysis without interruption. When I finished, he sat quietly for a long moment. "I spent 30 years building that company," he said finally, "and I'm watching it die because I was too proud to adapt, too convinced that the old ways would always work. Pride is expensive," I said, not unkindly. "I learned that lesson too. When I started my agency, I was so determined to prove you wrong that I almost made terrible decisions out of stubbornness. He looked directly at me for the first time during our conversation. I'm sorry for disowning you, for doubting you, for every cruel word I said. You were brave enough to bet on yourself, and you succeeded beyond anything I accomplished. I should have supported that courage instead of trying to crush it. The apology felt genuine, painful for him to deliver. I'd waited 5 years to hear something like this, but now that it had arrived, I realized forgiveness wasn't as simple as I'd imagined. I accept your apology, I said carefully, but trust doesn't rebuild overnight. We both said and done things that left scars. I understand. I'm not asking for forgiveness I haven't earned. I just wanted you to know that I was wrong, completely and utterly wrong about everything. Despite the complicated history, I decided to help my father's employees transition to new opportunities. I couldn't save Holloway Industries, but I could ensure the people who'd worked there didn't suffer unnecessarily. I reached out to my business network, connecting my father's former employees with companies that needed their skills. 3 of them I hired directly into my agency, recognizing talent that had been wasted in a dying company. My father called to thank me after I'd helped place his last employees. You didn't have to do that. After how I treated you, you had been justified in letting them all struggle. This isn't about you, Dad. It's about doing what's right. Those people worked hard and didn't deserve to be collateral damage in our family drama. The experience of helping others through the transition inspired a new idea. I'd been so focused on building my own success that I hadn't considered using my resources to help others facing similar challenges. I decided to start a foundation dedicated to helping aspiring entrepreneurs who face family opposition or lack of support. The foundation would provide micro-grants, mentorship, and resources to people trying to build businesses without family backing. The Entrepreneur Support Foundation launched 6 months after I bought my father's building. I funded it with $500,000 initially, planning to grow it as my agency continued generating profit. The response was overwhelming. Within the first month, we received over 300 applications from aspiring business owners who'd been rejected, mocked, or discouraged by their families. Reading their stories felt like looking into mirrors of my own past. Young people with brilliant ideas and crushing self-doubt. Talented individuals whose families viewed their ambitions as foolishness. Determined entrepreneurs who just needed someone to believe in them. We provided small grants, usually between $5,000 and $15,000, along with mentorship programs connecting recipients with successful business owners. The foundation's first success story was a woman named Chloe who wanted to start an organic bakery, despite her family's insistence that she become a lawyer. With our grant and mentorship, she launched successfully and was profitable within 8 months. I was invited to speak at a major entrepreneurship summit about the foundation's work. Standing on that stage, sharing my story of being disowned and building success despite rejection, felt cathartic in ways I hadn't expected. The foundation's impact grew rapidly. By year 2, we'd helped launch 47 businesses across 6 states. Some failed, as businesses do, but others thrived spectacularly. Each success story validated my belief that talent and determination matter more than family support or initial advantages. My father attended one of the foundation's events, sitting quietly in the back of the room as I spoke about the importance of believing in yourself when others don't. Afterward, he approached me, his eyes damp. "I see what you're doing here," he said. "You're helping people I once was, the person who rejected his own son's dreams because I couldn't see past my own limitations." "Everyone deserves a chance to pursue their vision," I replied. "Family support is wonderful when you have it, but its absence shouldn't be a death sentence for your dreams." My mother started volunteering at the foundation, reviewing grant applications and providing administrative support. It was her way of making amends, of supporting the son she'd let down when he needed her most. Our relationship was still strained, complicated by years of hurt, but we were slowly finding our way towards something resembling understanding. 3 years after starting the foundation, I made a decision that would close one final circle. My parents had always dreamed of owning a specific house in the historic district of our town. It was a beautiful Victorian-style home with a wraparound porch, mature gardens, and enough space for the large family gatherings my mother had always wanted to host. For 40 years, they'd driven past that house, pointing out and imagining what life would be like if they could afford it. The house came on the market unexpectedly when the elderly owners moved to assisted living. The asking price was $1.6 million, far beyond what my parents could manage given their current financial situation. I bought it within a week, paying cash to avoid any complications. Then I had it thoroughly cleaned, made minor repairs, and hired a designer to furnish it in my mother's style. I gathered my parents' preferences from old conversations and photographs, recreating the home they'd always envisioned. When everything was ready, I invited my parents to lunch at a restaurant near the historic district. After we ate, I suggested we take a walk to see the neighborhood. We stood in front of the Victorian house, my parents gazing at it with the same longing I'd seen my entire childhood. I pulled the keys from my pocket, watching my parents' confused expressions. "What are those for?" my mother asked. "The house is yours. I bought it, furnished it, and put the deed in your names. It's paid off completely, no mortgage. I've also set up an account to cover property taxes and maintenance for the next 15 years. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father stared at the keys like they were artifacts from another world. "Why?" he finally managed. "After everything we did to you, after disowning you and doubting you, and trying to crush your dreams, why would you do this?" I thought about the question carefully before answering. Because success isn't about revenge or proving people wrong. It's about becoming the person you want to be and helping others do the same. You made mistakes, terrible mistakes that hurt me deeply. But you're still my parents, and this house represents the dreams you had before fear and pride got in the way. My mother was crying openly now. My father's eyes were wet as he took the keys with trembling hands. We walked the house together, my parents marveling at every detail, every piece of furniture that matched their taste perfectly. In that moment, I realized that my journey had never really been about proving them wrong. It had been about proving to myself that I could build something meaningful, that rejection didn't define my worth, and that success paired with generosity was more powerful than success fueled by spite. Standing in that beautiful Victorian house, watching my parents rediscover hope and possibility, I understood the real moral of my story. Never let anyone's doubt define you. Keep pushing forward with determination and kindness, and success will come in forms you never imagined, bringing healing along with achievement.